First of all, I should thank you, Mataji, for giving me an opportunity to sing for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhava mahadhavagni nirvapanam shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jeevanam आनन्दाम्बुदिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतस्वादनं सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनं नामकारी बहुधा निज सर्वशक्तिस् तत्रार्पिता नियमितस्मरणेन कालः एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवम् ईदृशम् इह जनिनानुरागः त्रिनादपि सुनीचेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानिना मानदेना कीर्तनीय सदा हरे न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात् भक्तैरहैतुकी त्वयि ऐनन्दतनुज किङ्करं पतितं मां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजा स्थितधूलि सदृशं विचिन्तया नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदरुद्धया गिरा पुलकैर्निचितं वपुगदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्राविशायितं शून्यायितं जगत् सर्वं गोविन्द वरहेण मे आश्लिष्य वा पादरतां पिनष्टु माम् अदर्शनान् मर्महतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनाथास्तु स एव नापरः प्रभुराशिष्टाष्टका श्लोक ये पढ़े सुने कृष्ण प्रेम भक्ति तार बड़े दिने दिने हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण माताजी. Thank you माताजी. Hare Krishna
Mataji, thank you so much.
Thank you Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I will share my screen just a minute. You sang very beautifully, Mataji. You had very nice voice.
Thank you Mataji.
Yes. Just a minute. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's begin. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Okay, let's begin. We'll get to do the summary in the end also. So this is where we stopped. So we have quite a few slides to finish. So the third chapter, Karma Yoga. Okay, Nishkama Karma Yoga. This is where we stopped. So, okay. This is what a Nishkama Karma Yogi will conclude. My prescribed duties are meant to bring. Okay, he may think, okay, let's read this whole thing. But I do not have any material desire in this life, nor do I desire Svargaloka. I know I am not this body. So why should I need to perform my prescribed duties? So in the following verses, Krishna explains why one freed from material desires should nevertheless perform his duties. So answer to Arjun's argument of destruction of family dynasty, we will see from 3.18 to 26. So Nishkama Karma Yoga, action, karma, activities done without attachment, with knowledge, and without expectation of any fruits. Acting in Krishna consciousness is the highest intelligence. Okay, so let's go on, and now we start from here. Okay. Who would like to recite this verse? Before we begin, let's pay our obeisances to Sri Radha Govinda. That slide was missing, so I forgot. Sri Radha Govinda and Srila Prabhupada. Okay. So, whoever wants to recite the verses, please keep your hands raised.
Shall I try, Mataji?
Okay, Mataji. Prakash Prabhu also had raised his hand. He'll do the next one. Thank you, Mataji. Yes, go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna. Yasva atmaratir eva syad atmatriptascha manavaha atmani eva cha santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and one who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So a person who is fully Krishna conscious, is fully satisfied, in his activities in Krishna consciousness, he has no longer any duty to perform. Okay, Krishna is saying that. Because Krishna consciousness, in the sense, all the impiety within himself will be instantly cleansed. And it is like equal to many, many thousands of sacrifices, yajnas performed. So the Krishna consciousness itself is purifying. So once the consciousness clears, that person is not interested in any material activity. He won't be interested, Prabhupada writes, he won't be interested in wine, women, and all these other partying, all other infatuations or material desires. All these unnecessary desires won't be there in him because he's already purified from inside. And the devotee becomes fully confident of his eternal position. He knows, this is my eternal position. I am a part and parcel of Krishna. He knows his relationship with the Supreme. So what happens next? Now, okay, next verse. Prakash Prabhuji, please recite, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Naiva tasya kirtanato na kirtaneha kaschana na chasya sarvabhutesyu kaschedata vyapasrayaha. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So a self-realized person, how will he be? He is no longer obliged to perform any prescribed duty. We were talking about prescribed duties, right? So he's saying he does not have to perform all that, except activities in Krishna consciousness. That means he has activities, only he is not going to perform any prescribed duty. Krishna consciousness doesn't mean there is no work. Krishna consciousness is not inactivity. There is a lot of work. A lot of activities done for the Lord. And he does not take shelter of anyone, any person, any demigod, anybody. It's like a sannyasi. Prabhupada says, if a person wants to take sannyasa, there shouldn't be any fear in him. You shouldn't be worried about where my next meal is coming from, what will happen to me, how will I sleep in that forest, where will I get this, that. He's not worried about himself at all. If that fear is there in his heart, he cannot become a sannyasi. So it's like that. A Krishna conscious person, he's completely dependent on the Lord. He just wants to serve the Lord. So that is his thing. He's not disturbed. In any condition, he's not disturbed. So he does not go to demigod and pray, forgive me that, give me this, protect me, nothing. He knows God is there, Krishna is there with him. So that is the attitude and consciousness of a Krishna conscious person. Now Arjuna is hearing all this. Now let's see what happens next. Okay. Hare Krishna. Who would like to recite this one?
Shall I, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Tasmat sakta satam karyam karma samachar asakto yacharan karma param apnoti purusha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please read the translation also, Prabhu.
Okay. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So Krishna is actually encouraging Arjuna to act, without attachment. He's saying, just be dedicated to me, then you will not be implicated. Don't worry about sins and that and this. This is like cycle of sacrifice. So, and you will attain the supreme. So if you say this person is good, I am a good person, that person is good, even that is kind of personal attachment. There also there is some kind of personal attachment. But if a person is acting on behalf of the Lord without any attachment for result or anything, that is perfect action. That's all. There is no other thoughts. So he's telling Arjuna, you must act like that. Just go ahead and perform your duty right now as a Kshatriya. Without attachment, and just dedicate it to me. The activities, action is actually dedicated to me. Actually, Krishna wants Arjuna to fight, so he's encouraging him. So now, next verse. Okay. Who would like to recite this one? Hare Krishna. Yes, Sima Mataji, Hare Krishna.
कर्मण्येवा हि संसिद्धिम् अस्तिता ज्ञान जनकदया लोक संगारहम् एवापि I'm sorry Mataji, लोक संगारमम् एवापि संशयं कर्तुम् अर्हसि.
Okay.
Things such as Janaka attain perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So Krishna said, a self-realized person who is already in Krishna consciousness, he doesn't have any prescribed duties to perform. Okay, but now, why is King Janaka performing? So, Karmaneva hi samsiddhim astita Janakadeyaha. Janaka, King Janaka's name he's taking here. Loka sangraham evapi sampashyan kartum arhasi. Saying kings like Janaka, they were all self-realized souls. They were not obligated. Once again. They were not obligated to perform any kind of prescribed duties given in the Vedas because they're already elevated souls. But they still continued performing their prescribed duties. Why? Because they are leaders. People are watching them. They have to set examples for the rest of the society. That's why they continue performing their activities. So similarly here, Arjuna and Krishna, Arjuna is Krishna's eternal friend. They are going to conduct this war. Okay, they are going to fight. Why? To teach people in general, Prabhupada writes that violence is also necessary in a situation where good arguments fail. So this war was actually necessary. They have to perform this activity. Arjuna, even though he's a very elevated, he might be a very, very elevated, self-realized soul, but he has to still go ahead and perform this activity so that, in future, people know that sometimes, for dharmic reasons, sometimes you have to apply violence. As a Kshatriya, that's his duty. Because before this battle also, they went and tried to negotiate. It did not work. They tried so many times, right? Duryodhana was bent upon fighting, so they can't do anything about it. So it's okay to work, it's okay to act according to our own psychophysical nature, as long as it is done for the satisfaction of the Lord. So that's the purport. Okay, next verse.
Shall I recite?
Yes, Mataji, sure.
Hare Krishna. Yad yad acharati shreshtas tad tad eva taro janaha sayad pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So whatever standard is set by a great man, world pursues. That is very much true. We can see, look around. People have all kind of, role models, right? They just pick somebody who's very famous. Oh, I want to become like him. It could be a sports personality, could be an actor, anybody. It is general tendency, People generally follow someone. They consider that person as a leader. It could be anybody at workplace or school or anyone. But what happens is people generally need a leader, who can teach them by practical behavior. It's not like there will be a person who will be smoking himself 24 hours. He's not following any kind of nothing. Okay, he doesn't know shastras also. He doesn't know what are morals, no spiritual codes, nothing. But somebody might be following him. He himself is smoking, but he might come and tell, in public that please don't smoke. It's not good. That's not how a teacher should behave. Those are not good leaders. Acharya means one who teaches by his own example. Such a person is ideal teacher. That's what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. So a leader cannot, cheat the public. He shouldn't be, teaching anything if he himself is not following. Such a person is not even a teacher. So it's like he has to follow the principles of Shastra. And we have Manu Samhita, where all the rules are already given. We cannot manufacture our own rules and principles. If we don't follow the rules of the government, what happens? We will be punished. Same way, if we do not follow the rules and principles given in the Shastras, and if we don't have a problem, not following an Acharya, obviously we are going to, fall down. So there's no progress there. So he's telling you're already a leader, and we are all natural leaders in the sense, if we have children, we are naturally a leader, a father, a king or executive head of the state, or school teachers. They are all natural leaders. Children are already following them. So they have a huge responsibility on their shoulders, because they have to be well versed in the standard books of moral and spiritual codes. They have to be they have to be very careful, because somebody is following them all the time. They might be teaching them a wrong thing. So he's telling Arjuna, now, since you are a natural leader, you're already an established warrior. Whatever you do, people will follow in future. So be very careful of what you're going to do now. So he's warning him that as a Kshatriya, what he should be doing. Okay. So who's going to recite?
Shall I, Mataji?
Your Mataji.
नामे पार्थस्ति कर्तव्यं त्रिषु लोकेषु किंचना नानावक्ताम् अवक्तव्यं वर्त एव च कर्मणि. O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems. Nor am I in want of anything, nor have I any to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. Bhagavad Gita 3.22. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So Krishna, he is the Supreme Lord. He has no duties to perform. He's full in 6 opulences, full in strength, wealth, fame, knowledge, beauty, renunciation. And he is the proprietor of all riches. He doesn't have any duties to perform in the sense, see, only when we want the results of some work, we'll perform a duty. It's like, I'm hungry, I need to eat food, so I'll go and cook, right? So we want some results. So that's why we'll do some designated duty. But he has nothing to achieve in the all the planetary systems. Yes, so he has nothing to achieve. He has no duty. He's already the proprietor. He's already complete. He's the absolute. So now, and he's transcendental. There's no difference between his body and soul or anything like that. Still, yet, Lord Krishna is engaged in this battle, okay? Because he wants to show that Kshatriyas are duty bound. He was playing a role of a Kshatriya, okay? Kshatriyas are duty bound and they must give protection to the distressed. So this war is actually necessary. That point is being stressed, and we are also learning how to behave. Okay. Next verse. Hare Krishna. Pramod Prabhuji, you are unmuted. Do you want to recite?
Okay, I can. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
यद्यहं न वर्तेयं जातु कर्मण्यत् इंद्रिया मम वर्तानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्य पार्थ सर्वशः. For if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So Krishna descended to establish the principles of religion. He himself says that, right? He's the greatest authority. He's telling, if I don't perform all these religious prescribed duties, he was following everything properly. If you read Krishna book, you can see he was a perfect grihastha. He was perfectly taking care of his family, inside the house or outside. He was performing all his activities perfectly, like a perfect householder he lived. So why all this? So that the common men would follow in his footsteps. That's why he was setting the example. He's saying that himself. So let's move on. Next verse. Deepti Mataji, would you like to recite, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Okay.
उत्सिदेयुर्हि मे लोका न कुर्यां कर्म चेदहं संकरस्य च कर्तास्यां उपहन्याम् इमं प्रजा. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Varna Shankara is unwanted population, which disturbs the peace of the society. Arjuna was already discussing this in second chapter, right? Now Krishna says, whenever there is general disregard for regulative principles, he will descend, he himself descends and corrects the society. And we have to follow in his footsteps. That are footsteps of the empowered servants of the Lord. Like, all these great acharyas, we have to follow them. Follow means does not mean we have to imitate them. We cannot imitate the Goswamis. We cannot imitate Prabhupada. We cannot imitate Krishna or Shiva. We cannot. What does that mean? We have to just follow their orders. That's all. Because see, even all these demigods, they're very powerful. The Ishwaras are controlling the sun and moon. They're super powerful. Lord Shiva, some people, they just say, okay, I'll drink ganja. I will live like, like this and like that because Shiva is like this. That's not how it works. Shiva drank poison, right? One drop also we cannot even imagine. He drank so much poison. It was like coming from the, ocean. Very dangerous task. So if we cannot drink that poison, we cannot do many things that he's doing. So there is no way we can imitate him. Same way, there are some pseudo devotees, it seems. What they do, they call themselves devotees. They are pseudo devotees, they're false. They are just faking themselves as devotees. They want to do Rasa Leela. They just say, look, I'll imitate Krishna, I'll do Rasa Leela. But can they lift Govardhana hill? Can they do what Krishna was doing? He killed so many demons. Whatever activities he performed, nobody can imitate. But they call themselves, they want to imitate. That's not how it works. We have to just simply follow the instructions of the Lord and his empowered servants. That's all. Follow the instructions. Anukaran, Anusharan. We have to take Anusharan, not Anukaran. So that's what we have to remember. Next verse. Neeraja Mataji, would you like to recite? Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Yes,
Thank you.
Mataji. Okay, Mataji. Shaktaha karmani avidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryad vidvams tatha saktas chikishur loka sangraham. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment for the sake of leading people on the right path. Bhagavad Gita 3.25. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So what is the difference between a Krishna conscious person, God conscious, Krishna conscious, the same thing, and a person who is not Krishna conscious, who is material conscious, is like that. What is the difference between them? What is the basic difference between them? A person who is Krishna conscious and not Krishna conscious. What's the first thing? Yeah.
Krishna conscious person will not have any material desires, Mataji, whereas non-devotee, other persons will do work for the material desires and for their sense gratification.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so the difference is their desires, that's all. So a Krishna conscious person, he will do everything, that is conducive for the development of Krishna consciousness. His surroundings, his home, his activities, the kind of people he meets, everything will be different because he wants to progress in Krishna consciousness, not for sense gratification. But in this life, sometimes, that question comes up. We have to go to office where not everybody is Krishna conscious. Sometimes you'll have to go and have, whatever, have meeting or lunch and that and this. How do we mingle with the world? So in our heart, we are, we have to follow Krishna conscious. But when it comes to the world, we have to take care accordingly. It's like that. Personally, it's our Krishna consciousness is very personal. So we chant, we do whatever we are doing. But we cannot disturb others. If we can make them Krishna conscious, good. We should try. Devotees, very, very pure devotees especially, are very, very merciful. Even when they see a person, that definition will come. A person who is manda, or manda means who is ignorant. He doesn't know about spiritual life. He is very, very merciful. He'll try to engage him also in Krishna consciousness, some way or the other. He'll try to help him in, develop spiritually. They'll try all that. But, because we have to engage with the world, in our heart, we have to be careful. Whatever we are doing, it's because we have to progress. So that's how it is. But he still tries to engage in activities other than, for earning and all this. We have to go out, work sometimes. But they help others also to teach. They'll teach them how to engage the results of your action for the purpose of Krishna consciousness. So they try to set an example like that. Okay, let's go over this chart. How learned and ignorant people act. Differences. A self-realized person works for the satisfaction of Krishna's senses. Work without attachment to fruits, the result of work. Why? To set an example and lead people on right path. Okay, an ignorant person, this is how he is. Satisfaction of one's own senses. Work with attachment to fruits, that is results of work. Okay, next verse.
Mataji, can I read?
Yes, Mataji, sure. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Na buddhi bedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayed sarva karmani vidvan yukta samacharan. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. Bhagavad Gita 3.26. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Conditioned souls, in a sense, they know sense gratification. Everybody says, I want to eat this, I want to wear this color, I want to do. That's how people are, right? We are in a conditioned body, conditioned life. Conditioned souls know sense gratification. And there are people who don't do anything other than that. They may study Vedas also, they may go to temple, they'll perform sacrifices, whatever, but sense gratification will be there. And a pure Krishna conscious person who is very elevated, he can see that this person is totally into this, and he can't disturb him so much, but directly or indirectly, he can engage him in the Lord's service. Like that example comes in 18 days, right? See, this person is growing coconuts. you can tell him, you're anyway selling all these coconuts. Some coconuts you are going to consume. So why don't you offer some to the Lord? You can offer, sometimes whatever prasad we offer, prasad is still there, right? We're going to consume it. It's just that we are offering. Krishna does not need anything. Is that our service to him? So that the food is sanctified, and also, we are doing it so that we ourselves, a person who eats prasad, actually it seems he really, really progresses faster. So that way we can give prasad to others also. We also consume. So the little ways we can make a change. So like this, let's go, right? Next verse.
Can I read, Mataji?
Yes,
Can I
Mataji.
read,
Sure.
Mataji?
Okay, Seema Mataji will do the next one. Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Sure.
Krishna.
I will read.
Yes, Mataji, sure. Go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Bhagavad Gita 3.27. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So a person in material consciousness, he'll be very convinced by his false ego that he is the doer of all activities. That's how people talk, right? Okay. I built this, I did this, I achieved success, I hit a sixer, I did this. That's how people talk about themselves. So they will not have knowledge that, ultimately we are all under the control of Rishikesha, the master of the senses of the material body. Without his sanction, nothing moves. Even finger, toes, hands, legs, nothing will move. Everything is happening because the Lord has already, given us that benediction. If he decides, he can take away all this power. But Vimudhatma, that's what it says. Vimudhatma, Ahankara Vimudhatma. Vimudhatma means they are very much attached to the idea that they are the body. I am this, I am that, material designations, whatever they are, they'll keep talking about that, they'll boast. They are so much into that, very bewildered by false ego, that they are ignorant, basically. These are all symptoms of ignorance and nescience. By misuse of their senses, actually what is happening? They will prolong their miseries. That's what will happen. By forgetting their eternal relationship with the Lord, they're actually suffering. They're going to suffer more and more. So we have to remember, I have to remember, I am not the doer. And the action is carried out by the three modes of material nature. Sattva, Rajas or Tamas. Because we'll be infected by one of these modes. That is why we'll be acting in a particular way. We're acting in a particular way. Why? Because we are infected by this guna. Guna means rope. You see, we can see how a person in the mode of goodness behaves because infected by that mode. How a person in mode of passion will behave, because it's all this because of the mode of material nature. So this knowledge we should have. Okay, next verse. Seema Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Tattva vittu mahabaho guna karma vibhagayaha guna guneshu vartanta iti matva na sajjate. Translation. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, Almighty armed, does not engage himself in the senses and the sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So according to Srimad Bhagavatam, a person who knows the absolute truth in three different features, Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, he is called Tattvavit because he knows what is absolute truth. Brahman is also absolute truth, Paramatma also Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan also. But that is the highest realization. Bhagavan is the highest realization. Such a person is called Tattvavit. He knows. He knows his own factual position and what is his relationship with the Supreme. So Tattvavit will not be disturbed by any material reaction because he's already self-realized. He considers everything as the mercy of the Lord. If something good happens, he says, oh, this is because of mercy of the Lord. If something bad happens, he knows, oh, this must be because of something that I have done. So what should I do? What should we do? To correct ourselves, that is Krishna consciousness, where a person is constantly trying to improve himself, either by his chanting or devotional service, or trying to purify himself. That is the attitude. They never blame anybody. They don't blame this or that. They're not disturbed at all. They're completely in control of their attitude, mood. It's like, the ocean. Deep inside, it is very, very calm. So much water, rains, everything happens. But it is not that disturbed, except for tsunami and all what we saw. The ocean, rivers are constantly moving into the sea, but it stays very stable deep inside. So, the next one, Hare Krishna.
Shall I read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Prakritir guna sammudha satchandi guna karmasu tan akritsna vidu mandan Krishna vinna vichalayet. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So a person who is too much attached to body consciousness, okay, he thinks he's the body. He does not know anything, no understanding of spirit, soul, or nothing like that. So such a person is actually called Manda. Here is say Manda. Okay. Now what happens is, such a person will be very busy in the material field under the spell of different designations. They'll be doing all kind of work. Sometimes they'll do social work also, nationalism, altruism, materially benevolent work. They'll go out and say, so much social service I did. They'll do that also. But they will still not have that spiritual realization. For them, it's all a myth. Okay, they will not, such person will not even appreciate the activities in Krishna consciousness. So Krishna says, don't disturb such people and don't waste your time. Don't do that. But it's better to continue your own spiritual activities silently. But devotees, as we know, they are very, very, they go ahead and take all kind of risks, because they want to help the other person also progress in his spiritual journey. So they try to change his consciousness. But this is how materially attached people are. Okay, next verse.
Shall I read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mayi sarvani karmani sannyasyaadhyatma chetasa nirase nirmamo bhutva yudhyasvaha. No claims to proprietorship and free from lethargy, fight. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So this verse actually is very, very important. It indicates the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is actually telling you have to become Krishna conscious to discharge duties. It is like being in the military discipline. Arjuna has to follow the orders of the Lord. Fight as if the Lord is your military commander. That's what he's saying. And what will happen here? See, our eternal constitutional position is that we are subordinate to the desires of the Lord. Adhyatma Chetas means one who is completely dependent on the supreme soul, the soul of all souls. And he does not have supreme soul. He is dependent on the supreme soul, and he does not have any personal consideration at all. He is doing whatever rain or shine or that or this, whatever it is, I am just doing Krishna's work, working for the Lord. That is Adhyatma Chetas. So he has that consciousness. Nirashi means he does not expect, he should not expect any fruitive results. He acts only on the order of the master, and he does not expect fruitive results. It is like this. He knows nothing belongs to me. Like a cashier's example is given. The cashier full day, he will count money in the bank, but at the end of the day, he's not taking any money home. He's leaving everything and going back. So that is his consciousness. So Mai means unto me. So everything belongs to the Lord. Nirmama. Say Nirmama. Nothing is mine. And if someone is like this, Adhyatma Chetas, Nirashir, Nirmama, what happens to him? He will, actually Vigata Jvara. Jvara means fever. So he can come out of the feverish mentality, lethargy. So he'll know how to execute his order, and he will not have any laziness and lethargy. toward his duty. So that's why all these big words, see, Adhyatma Chitas, Nirashir, Nirmama, Nirmama, nothing is mine. That's all it means. Not claiming proprietorship over anything. But in this world, for the sake of living here, we say, this is my house, that is my school, that happens. But internally, we should realize that nothing belongs to me. So that realization has to happen. Okay, text 30. One second. Okay, here. Purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Surrendering all your work unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claim of proprietorship, free from lethargy, fight. Okay, next. Who would like to recite this one?
Shall I, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Eme matam idam nityam anutistani manavaha shraddhavanto anusuyanto muchyante api karmabihi. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Bhagavad Gita 3.31. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So the essence of all Vedic wisdom is this. That is, we have to follow the command or order of the Lord. And Vedas are eternal, right? Vedic knowledge is eternal. So this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. We should have firm faith in the Lord's words, and we should, without envying him, people they become very envious of Krishna. That is why that's why we are fallen down into this world. That's also one of the reasons. It's like, why he is the boss? Why can't I be the boss? Why should I serve him? That arrogance, attitude. Because of that, we've fallen down into this material creation. So we have to be very careful. Okay. Prabhupada says there are many Bhagavad Gita translations written by envious people. They don't even call God God. They use words like eternal essence, something. It's very vague. There is no mention of Krishna as Bhagavan at all. They write in a very vague way, their own philosophy. That will not help us. So next verse, who would like to recite? Hare Krishna.
Shall I only, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji, go ahead, please.
Etve etad abhyasuyanto nanutistanti me matam sarvajnana vimuddham stan viddinastan achetasaha. But those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So this is coming from Krishna himself. What will happen if someone disobeys? What will happen? We know. If you disobey the government will take action, no? Same way, he's saying the laws of transmigration are very, very strict. Everything is in place. Everything is done. Our body will be ready next birth based on how we behave. We're not following the scriptures, not following the prescribed duty. Nothing else will happen. We'll just, we'll be pushed into more and more punishment. So we have to be careful. Okay, now we're going to talk about the 4 varnas. Some people are born like that, some people have their own nature. Some people are Brahminical in nature. Some people are Kshatriyas by nature and by the way they perform activities. So they are like that. Based on their material modes of nature, they have to act. We will see. But Krishna consciousness is beyond all that. So we'll understand that now.
Shall I read, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sadrisham cheshtate swasya prakrite jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karisyati. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the 3 modes. What can repression accomplish? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So how do we become free from the influence of the modes of material nature, mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance? Mode of ignorance is really, really bad. A person, we can understand who is in mode of ignorance. A person, we are also sometimes, we can only see. By morning, we are in mode of goodness. early morning, so fresh. We'll feel so great. Oh, I can chant, I can do this. That's the best time for chanting also, we say, right? So like that, we start off very nicely. Somewhere by 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, we're in the mode of passion. And then because we start, anxiety starts, so many pending tasks. Somebody is calling, somebody is happening, somebody said something, all these kind of things start. By evening, we are in mode of ignorance, just want to go to sleep. So that's happening. So how do we become free from the influence of mode of material nature? So that is what is given here. Unless we are situated on the transcendental platform in Krishna consciousness, we cannot become free. Krishna says that in 7th chapter also. He says, Daivi esha gunamayi mama matya duratyaya mamevaya prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. Means this divine energy of mine. He's calling on this Maya, everything. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. He's telling it's not easy. But if you have surrendered unto me, then you can cross it easily. It becomes very, very easy. You can go beyond this. So now all the academic education, so much you study, so many chemistry, physics, whatnot we learn in school, mathematics, that, this, and so much, acquire so many degrees, and that will not actually help us with our real problems. That is important, to acquire some skills so that we can go in the world and earn some money, take care of our body and soul. That is very important. But our real problems of life will be solved only when we acquire this spiritual knowledge. And we have been in this material nature, association of this material nature for so long. So that's why our bondage is continuing. So what Krishna is saying is, suddenly you cannot give up your prescribed duties. Now Krishna is telling Arjuna, because Arjuna is a Kshatriya and he wanted to run away from his duties, right? We cannot suddenly give up your prescribed duties. It is recommended to be situated in that position. Do whatever you are doing. You do business. If you are a Vaishya, do that only. Do your business. If you're Shudra nature, do that work. Whatever you are. But, be situated in that and work according to whatever the rules are set for that prescribed duty, but under the superior training of a master. It's very important. We have to be trained how to progress in Krishna consciousness. We really need a guru who can actually take us one step at a time, and he'll completely, help us so that we can overcome these modes of material nature. Then there won't be any material misery anymore. So let's understand this verse now. Who is going to recite? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Marathi. Shall I, Mataji?
Okay, Mataji.
इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितौ तयोर्नावसम् अगच्छेत् तौ हि अस्य परिपन्थिनौ. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion, because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. This is Bharat Maharaj. He gave up his kingdom, his relationship with everyone. He went into the forest. He had actually reached the bhava stage. There are different stages to reach the final, stage. He was a prema, the ultimate. But what happened? He went into the forest. He fell in love with his deer, right? He got a deer's body. So the point is, even on the safest road, there will be some accident that can happen. Right? When you're following your prescribed duties, he followed all his prescribed duties. He was so nice. But what happened? This is what happened to him. Okay. So even if you are in spite of our regulated sense enjoyment, things can go wrong. Sometimes we fall down. So a person in Krishna consciousness, he becomes naturally averse to material sense gratificatory things. He's not into sensory activities, and also he knows where he should apply the attachment, where detachment. He has that much knowledge. So all his activities will be directed towards Krishna, loving service of Krishna. He will perform everything else also, but his focus is on Krishna. So it is very important to become Krishna conscious. That's the whole point. Others will get entangled because of all these activities, will become entangled by the sense objects. Okay. Okay, next verse.
Shall I read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna. Shreyan swadharma viguna paradharma swa anushtitta swadharma nidhanam shreya paradharmo bhayavaha. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. What is Krishna saying here is we should not imitate another person's prescribed duty, whether material or spiritual. A person should stick to his own prescribed duties rather than imitate another person's prescribed duty. In the sense, see, we have our own psychophysical condition. Okay, and this under the spell of material modes of nature, a person has to perform some prescribed duty. Now, a Brahmana should not artificially try to imitate a Kshatriya. A Brahmana is in the mode of goodness, and Kshatriya will be in the mode of passion. And a Kshatriya cannot become a Brahmana just like that. Arjuna will not become Brahmana overnight. It's not going to happen because he is in the mode of passion and he is allowed to commit some violence. Brahmanas are non-violent by nature. So that's what, stay in your nature and go ahead with your spiritual duties. Now, what are spiritual duties? They are ordered by the spiritual master for the transcendental service of the Lord. So again, we need, that's why all these sages, Raja Rishis, all the kings, they had advisors. Sometimes whenever they needed advice, they used to go to their spiritual master. Then they would be like, okay, this is clear for me. This is the action I have to take. They always, consulted their spiritual master. So in our life, we have Prabhupada giving us so many books actually. Right? So much is there for us to understand. No other temple will give us all this knowledge like this. He really is trying to educate us. So merciful. Right? It's not so easy. We can't go just like that and say, I want to learn the Vedas. I want to learn the Upanishads. Even if you have the thirst, it's not easy. But here he's making it like baby food. So easy. Read his books. We can actually understand what the Vedas are telling. So the thing is, a person who is transcended all these three modes of material nature can act any way he wants. He can act like a Kshatriya also, Brahmana also, whatever, it does not matter. Work is done for God. Whether what kind of work does not matter. So here we see example of Vishwamitra and Parashuram. So this sage Vishwamitra was originally a Kshatriya, but later on he acted as a Brahmana. And Parashuram was a Brahmana, but later on he acted as a Kshatriya. They were transcendentally situated. They could do so, but not us. On the material platform, we must actually stay in our own nature and perform duties according to the modes of material nature and have full sense of Krishna consciousness. So that is why this image over here of Vishwamitra and Parashuram, because they were born as something else, but their activities later on were different. Because they are different. Okay. Conquering the ultimate enemy, lust. Next, Arjuna asks a very important question. Okay. He asks a very important question. Let's understand. After hearing text 3.34, one may determinedly think, yes, from today onward, I will steadily do my duty and control my attachments and aversions. I will act only according to Shastras. But the question is, experienced teachers state that, however, such immediate inspirations may prove difficult to adhere to over time. Arjuna, being aware of reality, asks the following questions. He's saying, okay, we heard about the modes of material nature. There is a complete chapter about all this. He heard about false ego and soul getting bewildered, all this. So he has a very important question for Krishna. He's going to ask that now. Who is going to recite?
Shall I, Mataji?
Okay, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Arjuna Vacha Athakena Prayukto Ayam Papam Charati Purushaha Anichan Api Varshneya Baladiva Niyojitaha. Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So, Krishna says false ego is bewildering and the spirit soul is actually, it makes him believe that he is the doer. So Arjuna is asking, how did we get into this false identity cycle? False ego, false identity. How did all this happen? Because originally we are all pure souls. We are all completely spiritual by nature. We are so pure. We're so free from all these contaminations, material contaminations. And we are part and parcel of the Supreme. How did we become like this now? He's asking. But this happens when we come in contact with material nature. Okay. And he's saying, in the contact of material nature, we act in so many sinful ways. Sometimes we know it is wrong and still people will do it. They know they should not cross the signal light, but still they cross, right? A person knows this is wrong, but still they do it. Why are we so forced? As if somebody is forcing us, we are committing sins. Why is all this? He's asking Krishna, what is the reason for this? And Krishna says, it is because of lust. Any activity which has nothing to do with Krishna is actually lust. Sense gratification is lusty activity. Anything done for the Lord is love. That is a simple definition. Next verse. Would like to recite this one? Hare Krishna Mataji, yes.
Bhagavana vacha kama Kamayesha Krodayesha Rajoguna Samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyena Miha Vairinam.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead and read the translation. Thanks.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only. Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into vrat and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So when we, that is a living entity, when it comes in contact with the material nature, what is happening in the spiritual world? We actually have eternal love for Krishna, right? So that we have love for Krishna. But as soon as we enter this material creation, what is happening? That love is transformed into lust. It is like when you put tamarind into milk, it is going to curdle, right? Something like that. So as soon as that happens, we are in the mode of passion. Because of the mode of passion that is happening, it's become lust, and we are misusing that partial independence that we have, little independence that we have. We misuse that. Instead of the service attitude, it becomes, it's transformed into tendency of sense enjoyment. I want to watch this movie, I want to do this, I want to do that. So that becomes lusty because of the material creation and the mode of passion. So that is why it continues. This lust is, when it is not satisfied, it becomes wrath, right? It becomes worse only. So after that, what happens? Then there is illusion. Wrath is transformed into illusion, and this will continue our material existence. We don't know why we are suffering. We say, I'm suffering for no reason. We say that, but actually, all this is the reason. So lust is the greatest enemy of a living entity. That is what actually induces a pure living entity to, that is the reason why a pure soul gets entangled in the material world. Lust, he's telling the reason. Now see, we have an image here. So this wrath is manifestation of the mode of ignorance. So what do we do now? See how these people have become like this. Sometimes people can look at them and say, oh my God, they're doing something wrong. Many people know, 90% of people can look at somebody who's really messed up their life and say, oh God, how did this happen to them? How did they get into so much ignorance, right? So what do? Instead of our mode of passion degrading to mode of ignorance, we can elevate ourselves to mode of goodness. That we can do by spiritual attachment in the association of devotees, by visiting temples, by following the prescribed method of living and acting. That's why Vedas have given us this Varnashrama Dharma and all that. If we follow all that prescribed method of living and acting, then we can stay in the mode of goodness. And where is this lust coming from? Where is this tendency of lust, lusty behavior coming from? Do you know? Hare Krishna.
Material desires, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Yes, thank you, Mataji. Anybody else? Where is this? See, whatever qualities we have, right? Whatever we have in us, where is that coming from?
From Krishna himself, Mataji.
Krishna only, Mataji. Yes, Mataji, thank you. Because Bhagavatam says the definition of the supreme means the origin of everything. Okay, so the origin of lust is also the supreme only. It is given in the purport. So this lust can be transformed into love for the supreme. So if this is happening, what will happen? If one starts desiring everything for Krishna, then lust and wrath both can be spiritualized. Like we'll still have, tendency to get angry, tendency, all that will be there. But how Hanuman, he used that, right? The power to destroy, he actually burnt the whole Lanka like that. And here Arjuna is going to fight the war. That is also wrath. Is using that in Krishna's service. So both actually can be spiritualized by actually following our instructions given to us by the Lord himself and by his spiritual masters. Then there won't be any sin. Okay, this can be spiritualized. Okay, they can be employed in Krishna consciousness. Okay. Next verse. We have already gone through this in 18th chapter, 18 days course also. This is a very interesting verse. Who'd like to recite this one?
Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, sure.
Hare Krishna. Dhumena vriyate vane yatha darsho malena cha yathulbena vrito garbhas tatha tenedam avritam. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So there are 3 degrees of covering of a living entity by which that his pure consciousness, the pure consciousness is obscured. So this covering of lust under, this covering is lust under different manifestations. Here it is given like smoke in the fire, dust on the mirror, in the womb around the embryo. When lust is compared to smoke, this stage is actually beginning of Krishna consciousness. Okay, because the fire in the living being, the spark, that can be perceived. And dust on the mirror refers to the cleansing process of the dust on the mind. The mirror of the mind needs to be cleaned. This is compared to birds and animals. Embryo, child covered by the womb. That is a helpless situation actually. That analogy is to say that the living entity is in a very helpless situation. The child is helpless, it cannot even move, right? Same way, that is compared to trees, plants and trees. They are, almost devoid of consciousness. They are in such a great, such a condition because of their great exhibition of lust. Like we know Mani, Greva, Nalakubira's story, right? Like that. They can't even see. Imagine in that situation, they can't chant, they cannot do any service, they cannot walk. They cannot do many things that we are doing. Can they hear Shastras? Nothing. They are stuck in that situation. But if you offer flowers from those plants, even among them, there are some pious plants, some are impious. If you offer the flowers to the Lord, then that plant has higher chance of, progressing in Krishna consciousness. So actually, we can engage them also in the service in that way. So in human form, actually, we can cultivate Krishna consciousness. We can revive our love for the Godhead. The smoke, if you carefully take care of the smoke, it can become fire and can blaze. So how do we do that? By chanting more and more, chanting the holy name and working under the guidance of the spiritual master. Okay, again, there is information about lust here. Very important. Who is going to recite this one?
Shall I, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Avritam gnanam etena gnanino nityavairinaha kama rupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. Thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Bhagavad Gita 3.39. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. What it means is, see, we cannot satisfy lust by any amount of sense enjoyment. Say we are addicted to gulab jamun. Doesn't mean we'll eat 100 gulab jamun, tomorrow lust will go away. No, tomorrow we'll still feel like eating gulab jamun. We'll just fall sick eating 100 jamuns, but after 10 days, maybe we'll again go back and eat 2 more jamuns. It's so by more and more sense enjoyment, you cannot satisfy the lust. It is like you cannot extinguish fire by the supply of fuel, right? You can, by putting more and more oil, what is going to happen? It's going to blaze like this, even more and more. Addictions are like that. The more they take, the more they get addicted. So only by advancing, in Krishna consciousness, we can actually control all this. What is happening in today's world? Our advancement of civilization, material civilization, is based on sense gratification only, right? By increasing all this, what is happening? We are increasing the duration of our material existence. There won't be any liberation, nor will, neither liberation nor anything. There is no going back to Godhead happening there. So, we are enjoying due to sense gratification. We feel happy, but this feeling is actually our ultimate enemy. It's like Shreya and Priya. Right now, it feels like, oh, I'm doing, it feels so nice. But later on, there will be results. We have to face the consequences. It's like that. So lust is a symbol of ignorance. Okay, next one. Another interesting verse. Hare Krishna. Who is going to recite this one?
Let me, Mataji.
Sure, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Indriyani manobuddhi ashyadhistanam uchyate iter vimohayati esha jnanam avritya dehinam. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So what do they represent? The horses represent the senses. And then the senses are going haywire. Like eyes want to see something beautiful. Nose wants to smell something nice. Tongue wants to eat all kind of, palatable, delicious things. It's like that they are all everywhere, right? And the passenger is the soul. And the intelligence is the driver. And mind is the driving instrument. What is the soul doing? It is just observing. We are not acting at the soul level right now. So what is happening? You'll just keep wondering, what is the intelligence and mind do to me? And, the soul enjoys or suffers because of this association of mind and senses. Arjuna is saying, actually, mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate. It is so strong, I cannot control the mind. He's saying, so it's not easy to control the mind. It is like this. Prabhupada in his speech, he says, say you call the driver, okay? You tell him, you give him the keys and say, okay, drive my car, take me to somewhere. Say, take me to the temple. And the driver is actually going somewhere else. He is not listening. You want to go to temple, he's taking you to some other place, some restaurant or somewhere. Then you say, no, I want to go to the hospital, please take me there. He's again driving everywhere, nothing happening. So our mind, if the driver is not listening to you, what is going to happen? Right? That's what is happening. The mind is supposed to listen to us, but it's the other way. It overcomes the intelligence also. Mind can overcome the intelligence also. It's supposed to be subservient to the intelligence, but this is what happens. Mind is very, very difficult to control. So Prabhupada gives this example, like some acute infection, cannot be controlled by medicine also sometimes. The infection is so strong that the medicines also sometimes don't help. It's like that. A strong mind is very, very important. And we have to control the strong mind by the practice of not by yogic postures. It's not possible, yogic postures, and artificially we cannot control at all. It's not possible. It's only possible in Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada in this purport also, he says, chanting actually is very, very important. That is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. So we have to engage our mind in Krishna consciousness. If you give some other engagement to the mind, again, it will be diverted. So you have to keep chanting, and it will purify the mind and heart. So another very important verse. Who is going to recite this one? Hare Krishna. We have few more slides to do. We'll finish it off.
I'll recite Mataji.
Okay, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Tasmat tvam indriyani adav niyamya bharatar sabha papamanam prajahi he enam jnana vijnana nashanam. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. From a very early stages of our life, we must begin regulating the senses. See these little children, how cute they are. They're actually chanting. So by regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness and practicing devotional service, the lust can be converted into the love of Godhead. It will be converted into love. And that is the highest perfection of life, highest perfectional stage of human life. So if we say, I'll enjoy my life like this, enjoy my life like that, without Krishna, without, all this, I don't care for all this, the contemplation, the first, that stages of fall down that we saw, it starts with contemplation, right? Krishna says, curb at that stage only. When you feel like that contemplation, oh, maybe I can enjoy like this, I can go this wrong direction, that time only you should curb it, right in the beginning. Okay. Then if we do that, what will happen if you don't do that? Lust will destroy the urge for self-realization. That's what will happen. So we'll never achieve anything. No specific knowledge of self or self-realization or nothing only. Gnana means knowledge. Knowledge is just, I am not the body, I am the soul. But just theoretical knowledge will not help unless and until we practice this. So we have to deliberately, at the beginning stage only, we should curb that. So Vijnana means we actually have this knowledge, but we also know it's a specific knowledge of the spirit soul, and we know our constitutional position, and we are actually practicing also. An application of knowledge is also happening. We know the relationship with the Supreme, but we're actually living that life. Okay. Degrees of covering of the lust on the living entities. Lust, different degrees of covering of lust. Okay, now fire, the smoke, the fire, that is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. See, it started blazing. Okay. Cleansing by spiritual methods. Dust on the mirror. Knowledge completely covered, that is womb the embryo inside the womb. So these images are just to, revise. It's a revision for us. More characteristics of lust. Characteristics of lust. Cover living entities, pure consciousness. Lust is symbol of ignorance. Lust is never satisfied. Satisfying lust is like adding fuel to fire. See, this boy is doing that. How to stop it? Stop feeding it and let it die. Okay, one more. We have 5 more slides. We'll finish it off. Okay. Okay. So lust. How to conquer the enemy lust? What are the sitting places of lust? Krishna is giving information about that. See, the 5 senses are mentioned here. This is mind, intelligence. This is soul. Center of all activities, the senses. Reservoir of ideas for sense gratification. Lusty intelligence, that's the capital. Lusty intelligence actually influences the soul. Okay, let's discuss. Okay, it is not difficult to understand. Okay, it's quite simple. See what happens in the conditioned life. The enemy has taken different strategic positions in the body. So Krishna is telling us where we can find this lust. Mind is the center of all activities of the senses. Okay, it is a storehouse of all the ideas of sense gratification. So the mind and senses, they are the storehouses of lust. So if we know that, we can work on it. And then what happens if the mind is full of lust? The intelligence also becomes lusty. The mind and senses are making the intelligence also lusty. And when the intelligence is lusty, intelligence is the next door neighbor of the soul. That's what is written in the purport. Now, if intelligence is lusty, it will influence the spirit soul, and the soul starts acquiring a false ego. Oh, I'm this, I'm that, like that. So once that identification starts, then it will start identifying itself with matter. and mind and senses, and we'll start looking for enjoyment in all these material activities. So that's what happens. So the spirit soul will become addicted to enjoying the material senses, and it will mistake that for true happiness actually. Oh, I'll eat this meal, I'll be so happy. We also think like that, right? I'll gain this, I'll be happy. I'll get that job, I'll be happy. But it's never ending. So that's what is happening. A lusty mind and lusty senses can affect the intelligence, and the intelligence actually drives us down. So this is what is happening. False ego develops like this. This is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. Okay, now. Okay. Regulate the senses. How to overcome lust. Learn Krishna consciousness from Bhagavad Gita. Even a late beginner can become lover of God by following regulative principles of devotional service. So just by following the instructions given in Bhagavad Gita, reading Bhagavatam, understanding everything from these great acharyas, we can actually regulate our senses. We can overcome lust. Okay. Another interesting verse. Who's going to recite this one? Okay, 2 people are there. I think we have 2-3 more verses. So yes, Mataji, you can take turns. Who is going to recite? Was it Lakshmi Mataji or Deepti Mataji? Someone? I forgot.
Yes, I had said that.
Okay, Mataji, you recite. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Indriyani parani ahur, indriyebhya param manah, manasastu para buddhir, yo buddhe paratastu sah. The senses are different outlets for the activities of lust.
Okay. Mind is between senses and intelligence. You see this ladder here, how it is given, right? Okay, let's read that quickly. See, senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. This is the hierarchy. And soul is even higher than the intelligence. The senses are different outlets for the activities of lust. So now, Bhagavad Gita is actually teaching us how we should live, how we should not live. See, the soul is the master of the intelligence, mind, and senses. What is happening in Krishna consciousness? The soul is making direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If the soul is directly engaged with Krishna, what is going to happen? All the other subordinates will actually listen. Okay, they all will come under the control. Like all the intelligence, mind, senses, automatically they'll get engagement. They'll be very busy performing activities which are actually conducive to Krishna consciousness. So what is the solution right now? By intelligence, we must engage the mind in Krishna's service, the Lord's service, some complete surrender unto him. Automatically the mind will become stronger. Senses will not become, they'll not even think about lower propensities. It is like the serpents with broken fangs, like that. The senses will not trouble us anymore. So how we do all this? By the association of devotees. In the association of devotees, we can actually overcome all these problems. We won't fall down. So it is very, very important to our agitated mind, and we say with so disturbed consciousness, whatever, all that can be actually directed, in the activities of Lord's service. If we are engaging ourselves in the Lord's service, all this automatically will come under control. So they will not trouble us anymore. Mind will not trouble us, and we will be on the right track. So first, we have to understand our constitutional position of the soul with intelligence. Okay, this is a very important slide. After this, we actually reach the summary. So let's discuss this one. We have actually done this in the 18 days class also, right? 5 stages of realization, different levels of consciousness. This is Annamaya platform. Do you know the different levels of realization? 5 stages. Can someone just unmute and name them? Annamaya platform, Pranamaya platform. In the 18 days course we did, right? Okay, that is the, okay, let's begin from bodily platform, Annamaya platform. It's compared to dull matter. It's the lowest consciousness. This person in this consciousness, he'll be like, just worried about food for existence. He will not have any other thoughts in his mind. Just, bodily basic needs, like a baby cries for food. That's all, satisfy my hunger. That's what it is. And Prabhuji gives a very nice example. Such a person will satisfy his craving even in the middle of the day. If he wants to drink liquor, maybe in the afternoon also he'll go to the wine shop and drink, go to the liquor shop. He's like that. He can't control. So next is Pranamaya, sensual platform. This person will actually he can regulate his senses. And this is a little more developed consciousness. He can actually, know how to protect his body. It is something between body and mind. This stage is like that. And they understand the living symptoms. It is like even animals can achieve these two stages. Bodily, Annamaya platform, and Pranamaya platform in animals achieve. Next is mental platform, Manomaya platform. In this stage, people actually start cultivating some knowledge, some speculative knowledge. They think I'm not the body, I'm not the senses. And they do everything, to satisfy the mind sometimes. They become more inquisitive, curious. They start thinking. And they start enjoying classical music. They read philosophical text. They are slowly going towards intellectual platform. They engage in activities that soothe their mind. I have to take care of my mind. They may read good books. They are like that. But they are not lazy. Intellectual platform, in the sense, it is higher than the mental platform. They are like gnanis. They understand. I am not the body. Am I the body? Am I the mind? Am I the senses? No, they are interested in knowing beyond that also. They gather more and more knowledge. They become gnanis. See. Okay, this is intellectual platform where they know they are not the mind also. They are trying to understand better and better. More and more knowledge. The highest is Anandamaya platform. In this is the supreme stage, and here the person is actually happily situated. He's very, very happy. He knows he's the spirit soul, and he knows who he is, and then he knows what activities he should perform, and he's completely engaged in the Lord's service. You can actually see him, he's so happy. That is spiritual platform, Anandamaya platform. And we can see Prabhupada, how he was completely dedicated to Krishna, not disturbed at all. He knew his original constitutional position, and he was trying to help us also. You know what is the perfection of life, he knew completely. So that is spiritual happiness, the final stage. Okay, let's go over this. So what is the solution? Hierarchy of sitting places of lust, we learned. Soul, this is soul, intelligence, mind, and the senses. Sitting places of lust, intelligence, mind, and senses. Okay, different outlets for activities of lust. What are the different outlets for activities of lust? Eyes, these five senses here. Okay. See, eyes, nose, ears, mouth, touch. Through them only. Okay. Even though the soul is the master of the intelligence, mind, and senses, unless it is strengthened by Krishna consciousness, there is every chance of falling down due to the agitated mind. So mind control, controlling the mind is very, very difficult, like Arjuna himself says. So this chapter is actually helping us to understand how to control our mind. Okay. Now, this one and then the summary. Okay. After Deepti Mataji, one more. Okay, Santoshi Mataji, go ahead, Mataji. You are unmuted. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Evam buddhi param buddhva samstabhyatmana namatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence. O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy,
Insatiable enemy known as lust.
insatiable enemy known as lust.
Yes, Mataji. So he's saying one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. So the next chapter is going to be continuation of this. And he's talking about spiritual strength. We can conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. See what is happening. We are in this conditioned life. Conditioned souls have the desire for overloading, right? I want that property also, this property also. And we are saying lust is the greatest enemy, but we are actually dominating the resources provided by material nature. Right? We are all doing that. We are more and more properties, buy 10 flats also. This also accumulate for the next generation also. We are doing all this. We have the tendency to overload. So what can we do? We can control the material senses, the mind and intelligence by gradually developing our Krishna consciousness. That is the summary of this chapter. Gradually develop your Krishna consciousness. Artificially, we cannot do anything about our lust. Our mind will be disturbed. Senses will get distracted. We cannot artificially stop it. We can say, okay, from tomorrow for 1 month, I will do this. And artificially, many people are following diet and all that, right? But they'll fall back again. It's very difficult. 10 days, they'll not eat anything. After that, they'll in 6 months, they'll look very, it's artificially, they're suffering actually. But if they're already eating with consciousness that, I have to eat Krishna Prasad. I'm just giving a rough example. It could be in any area of their life. It could be happening. So philosophical speculations, artificial attempts by doing yogic postures, all this they are not long-term solutions. That will not work. We have to be trained in Krishna consciousness by a higher authority. Okay, some higher intelligence, a person who is really, really intelligent, like, a spiritual master, he can actually train us. Otherwise, on our own endeavor, it is not easy. So that is the purport. So we'll go over this summary. What did we learn? 3.1 to 3.9, dealing with the confusion, renunciation or working in Nishkama Karma. Then 3.10 to 3.16, from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. 3.17 to 3.35, Nishkama Karma, acting dutifully with detachment to set the correct example. Then there was a lot of information about lust and anger. 3.36 to 3.43. So many sins are happening in the world around us, right? If we switch on news, we can see this happened, that person did something, this person was arrested. This is happening, sins are happening all around us, right? So see, this Bhagavad Gita is actually telling us how to, live a proper life. And so Krishna introduces the concept of working as a sacrifice for Krishna, that is Vishnu, according to prescribed duties. And he spoke about Nishkama Karma Yoga. And then there are people who are attached to their work and the results of their work also, like Karma Kanda. An intelligent person could engage them slowly in Krishna consciousness. Directly or indirectly, they can guide them. And why are we impelled to commit sinful activities? Why is a person impelled? Because of lust. And then a living entity gets bewildered by false ego. That information was given under the modes of material nature. He thinks he is the doer. And then lust covers the entity, like the different layers were discussed, which is pure consciousness is obscured because of this lust. And lust is a formidable enemy. Okay, it is an enemy in the path of yoga. And we have to conquer this lust by deliberate spiritual intelligence. So that's how this chapter ends actually. Actually, Prahlad Maharaj, his father will tell, you are actually worshipping my enemy, Vishnu, Narayana, what is this? So Prahlad Maharaj says, no, father. He doesn't call him father. He says, oh, the king of demons, he addresses him in a different way. He says, your enemy is actually your own mind. He says that your mind is your enemy. So Prahlad Maharaj, 5-year-old boy, he's telling our enemy is our own mind. So how do we overcome all this, lust and anger and all? So now next chapter is about, what is the next chapter? Chapter 5. Sorry, chapter 4. We just finished 3. What's the name of the next chapter? Do you remember? Hare Krishna. Everybody's so quiet. There are so many names here.
Transcendental knowledge.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So we'll do that in our next session. I'll stop the live stream.